Where's that darn Karate Jew? They're making us, robbing us look horrible. Shalom! Welcome to another exciting edition of Torah Watchman Show, LLC. From none other of your humble Karate servant here, Reb ben-Emmett. God bless everyone here. Thank you for attending another one of my videos on YouTube/Word and Board. If you just Google me or Yahoo me, you'll find me. I'm getting more popular. I am a public figure. I really am. I have my own company, and I'm working for non-for-profit status too as we speak. You can search for me at Reb ben-Emmett on Google. You'll find podcasts there. You'll find YouTube content, all free for you to share with your friends and bless them as well. When Elohim blesses me, I don't sit on those blessings like a chicken sitting on an egg hoping to hatch a chick, right? No, I share the blessings to everyone that's willing to hear it, right? I hope everyone's well. Well, we're wrapping up the Holy Week, the high holiday of Sukkot, closing in on the seventh day, known as Shemini Atzeret. Yes, that is Friday evening, which begins the next day at sunset. Holy Shabbos as well. It's actually a continuum of holidays. Shemini Atzeret actually means it's an aggregate of Shabbat and Simchat Torah. Yes, what is Simchat Torah? We celebrate finishing the 5 books of the annual Torah cycle and beginning again with the book of Bereshit. And generally speaking, the giving of the Torah, right? So let's get started. We're in the book of Deuteronomy. We're finishing this sacred book. Deuteronomy, again, is like a teaching sermon that Moshe was urgently trying to get out to Generation X that survived the wilderness wandering of 40 years on Mount Sinai. But now they're getting ready to march forward under new management, new leadership, none other than Joshua, with his helper Caleb as well. He has the mantle, he has the staff, he has the anointing of Moshe's energy, all the anointings and miraculous feats and events and things of that nature that was witnessed before, like the parting of the Red Sea, like the defeat of the Amalekites, like the giving of the Ten Commandments, like the other miracles and of manna and other manifestations like that, and bringing forth a wellspring of water in the desert when there's no water at all, but just scorpions and serpents. Well, Joshua was infused with that power too. And this also sadly ends the last will and testament of Moshe, the greatest Navim that's ever lived. So we're wrapping this up in chapter 33, and then finishing it up in chapter 34, and then we're going to cap it off with the first verse in the book of Genesis of Bereshit. So stay with me. First, a brief synopsis, right? A general overview. This week's Torah reading is known as V'zot HaBerachah, which simply means a series of brachas and blessings. Literally, when Moshe knows that he's going to die, he did the same thing that Joseph did in blessed memory in Goshen, Egypt. You know, the same thing that Yaakov did when he was blessing his sons, and so on. This is a Jewish tradition. It's enshrined. It goes all the way back to the time of Noah. It really does. So that's what we're talking about. Of course, Simchat Torah, we're talking about the holiday as a one-day Hag, per se. And when we all dance with the Torah, at least in conservative Judaism and Karate Judaism, we don't discriminate against boys and girls and women and men when it comes to interaction with the Holy Torah. We hand them out, we distribute them out, and we carry them like a lover. We really do. We carry them close to our chest. And we carry them in joy and happiness and dance and song. It really is. And my wife reminded me, and I'm very tired this week, I got work, and then we have company coming over every evening, but delicious food in our sukkah. It is what it is. And we're going to be wrapping up this entire high holiday sequence this weekend, getting ready for Hanukkah, believe it or not, to get into the winter months. So I want to focus on the first aliyah, a little bit lengthy, but bear with me. Shortly before Moshe passed away, and again I told you the last two parashahs before we entered the Yom Kippur series, a holiday, high holiday, that he only had 24 hours left to live, and he was finishing up the second part of that 12 hours, probably I would imagine getting close to the evening or the beginning of the next day. And Moshe, what he did, he didn't have anything else to give to the Jewish people. He already poured out his heart and soul. He gave prophecy like a wonderful Navim would. He warned them about curses and blessings and admonishment. He told them about Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. He told them what to expect. He told them what would happen in the downfall of their ancestors in the future. Like any great father, parent, great-grandfather, he did his best to raise his children right. There's still very stubborn streak at them, and stubborn streak in Jews, but I think it keeps us alive, right? Amish Kahai. So Moshe prefaced his blessings, first of all, that his blessings do not come directly from him. No, no, no. When he ascended the heights and glory of Mount Sinai, he literally ascended the upper echelons of Shamayim to the Eternal One, the Divine Creator, blessed be his name, Jehovah, our God. The myriads of the angelic beings, the Malachim there, and witnessing all the glory, all the fire and lightning and smoke and everything else for 40 days and 40 nights, he brought down the greatest of all blessings, and none other than the covenant, the contract, sealed and delivered with the Ten Commandments on stone, 2 stone tablets. So with these brachas, these blessings was all reserved inside the last beating of his heart, and he wanted to give those blessings to the 12 tribes of Israel, the new chieftains of Israel, the generation X, as I say, the new generation that had survived all the adversity of the desert and getting ready to set up new lives, a new household, marriage commitments, bat mitzvah, bar mitzvahs, children, whatever, and their defeat and war, unfortunately, defeating the Canaanite nations too. That was in store for them, and that was a very lengthy process. So the first blessings I've read here is that Moshe lovingly gave the unconditional gift straight from Elohim that he received at his throne on Mount Sinai to the children of Israel, beginning with Reuben and Yehudah, the first 2 tribes that he blessed. Reuben with a life in this world, the next one. Yeah, we believe as Jews with the righteous of souls and literally go to Sheol, which is like the Garden of Eden by tradition. That's what we're talking about, that Reuben was a righteous person. His prophecy that he would live a righteous life, and he would have a righteous legacy that would be revealed finally in the world to come. Okay? So Yehudah was blessed with success, and traditionally Yehudah was the oldest son, of course. And it goes, Yehudah actually became Judea today in southern Israel, and we are actually named after Yehudah as a consequence of tribal exile and diaspora. We are actually known as Yehudim. Yeah, literally, from the individual of Yehudah. So in verse 1 and the first aliyah, this brief verse here, Sidra, and this is the blessing which Moshe, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel just before his death. Thus the preface there. The second aliyah, the holy tribe of Levi, was next in line to be blessed, the HaBerachah. Moshe extols the virtues and the only tribe to remain faithful to God throughout the various trials and tests that Israelites had countered, tests of virtue, adversarial virtue. Some passed with splendid colors, others failed miserably. Okay, but in the golden calf incident, the Levitical priests, more or less, were the ones that were righteous, and they never bowed to any idol of worship to replace Elohim. So they received a very sweet blessing. as governors over the priesthood, the Mishkan, the uptake of the temple, etc. They would teach also the laws, the mitzvot, 613 mitzvot, that was given originally to Yaakov, and the Torah to Israel. And they will place incense before you. And you is capitalized in the English translation, referred directly to Elohim, of course. And with burnt offerings. They're the only ones allowed to interact with the holy, at least on a limited basis. Remember, the Kohen Gadol and only his direct descendants from his son were actually allowed once a year to go into Holy Holies, lift the veil, and encounter the divine creator's neshama, his nefesh, his soul, to ask for forgiveness for Israel, to put the blood of that goat, the animal sacrifices, on the mercy seat to be accepted and to be atoned for once a year during Yom Kippur. Binyamin is acknowledged as God's beloved. Why? Remember the story of Yaakov, his sweet wife, Rachel. He had two sons with him, Joseph and Binyamin. Binyamin was the youngest of the sons he had, the last one he had, through the concubines and Leah and the other maidservants. They didn't have in vitro fertilization. They didn't have the kind of mothers or women that volunteered to grow babies within their bodies and everything else, and medically. They don't have that. They didn't have that. Remember, Binyamin actually took the life of his mother when he was born. It's a very hard delivery. Remember, Rachel was buried in the town of Bethlehem of the day. He was known as the beloved of Yaakov, and God remembered that special love and affection. But Binyamin probably looked just like his mother, I would imagine. The tribe would be graced by the holy temple, which will be situated in the portion of Israel. You need to know a map, especially an older tribal map of Israel. You have Judea, you have Levi, which is no real estate, no tribal breakouts whatsoever, in the temple, the core of the temple. Binyamin, which actually infused with Yehuda, and later on half of the tribe of Manasseh was infused with them as well. And maybe Naphtali, if I remember correct. I'm not going to go there. And verse 8 I selected is chapter 33, a key verse here. And of Levi, he said, your Tumamim and your Urim belonged to your pious man, whom you tested at the Massa, and whom you tried at the waters of Meribah. In other words, all the holy characteristics of you passed muster. On the Meribah was the bitter waters that was turned to sweet. And they were found worthy before God in that testimony and that witness. The third aliyah, this section is devoted to the bracha, the blessing given the tribe of Joseph, which I just mentioned. Moshe blessed Joseph with a bountiful portion that will be blessed with ample rain, dew and produce and delicacies. We pray for this in our morning prayers. Orthodox has something called breakouts, the three prayers, Shacharis, Mincha, and Avra, and all those prayers. Then the first day of Sukkot, on the seventh-day festival of tents, booths, huts, we traditionally begin praying for the winter months to have copious amount of rain, because this is make it or break it for the farmers in Israel, and Eretz Israel. It really is. Today it is. So we start talking about the dew, the rain, the dew in the mornings in the summer becomes copious rain season, hopefully, and get the ground saturated, fill all the aquifers, fill all the rivers and brook and stream. You know, the Dead Sea is notoriously low on water and becomes extremely salty. But sometimes the River Jordan is overflowing its banks. I've heard about floods in Tel Aviv, for instance, in the winter months. Okay? So in verse 14, and with the sweetness of the produce of the sun, and with the sweetness of the moon's yield. Why did I say that? Because, you know, plants thrive in sunlight, right? the sweetness of the moon's yield is that many people harvest late into the evening under the full moon. It's actually something known as the harvest moon, when you have the fullness of the moon during fall and autumn. The fourth aliyah, Zebulun, was blessed with the success in his business endeavors, and Issachar in the Torah studies. It's interesting. Issachar was known for reading the Torah. Maybe in future they would have yeshivas and other academia of sacred writings, etc., that they would be managing, rabbinically speaking. Also, God was blessed with the strength of a lion, who tears off literally the arm and the head of the enemy, already like a lion, with one blow. So this is like the fighting with gallantry and courage and bravery. That tribe will go forward and fight for tribal Israel to win victories against the Canaanites. God is then praised by choosing a portion in the eastern bank of Jordan River. Remember, there's agreements before they even crossed the River Jordan. God had specifically requested to have access to those rich fertile lands for their sheep herds and goats, cattle. And they would return to rejoin the other tribes in time of war, crisis, as reservists that were recalled, per se. This area of Moab, incidentally, is very close to the proximity of Moshe's final resting place, and we'll get to that in a moment. So he was known as the lead of troops to battle the kings and the giants of Canaan, in that they are the triggers. They're the so-called surge troops, per se. That they would be called first. When you see them marching with their soldiers, their armor, swords, and shield, the shofar blast and everything, when they come across the River Jordan, that is a trigger for everyone else to get ready to go to war. Okay? Verse 18, and to Zebulun he said, "Rejoice, Zebulun, in your departure, and Issachar in your tents. So no matter where you go, in your pilgrimages and travels and trading, you will have blessings upon your tents. Your tents will be taken care of. Your wives and children will be taken care of when you're away." Fifth aliyah, Don, too, is blessed with the strength of a lion's cub. So you had a comparison before of a lion, and then you have a lion's cub. So Naphtali's portion in Israel is lauded as one that brings satisfaction to all the inhabitants and is filled with God's blessing. Quickly, Joseph, remember he had two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And the blessing I didn't mention before of Joseph was so great and mighty, all of northern Israel literally became known as Ephraim. Especially when the northern Israel committed civil war, treason essentially against the King Solomon's son in southern Israel. And they were persistent up to the time of King Hezekiah, when Assyrian forces moved in and conquered them and took them out as a great divided diaspora that would cause much pain and suffering even to this day. So Asher is blessed with sons, many sons, with an abundance of olive oil. That is actually a fruit, it's a blessed fruit, and I believe it actually was more than likely was probably the fourth species of the hadar tree, of the wondrous fruit that was beneficial not only to bring to market, but was so critical for temple ritual worship, and also was cost much money and brought much wealth to Israel, as pure virgin oil as well. And it was also used as a tithe and attempt to the Levitical priesthood, so they could have some oil for their families, since they were not allowed to own real estate and grow crops and land and things of that nature. So there's also a saying here that extent that he will immerse his feet in the oil. In other words, the oil would be so abundant, they were so overflowing, that he would have oil pouring out in his feet. So he's filling all the barrels of olive oil, and he's doing it day and night, and he's running out of barrels, and is filled to the brim. And you think about the menorah that's full of that virgin olive oil. its corpus is never going to burn out in the days of Judah Maccabee of blessed memory. Your locks of your border towns are strong as iron and copper. Remember, when Asher moved into Israel, along with the other tribes, they conquered very large walled cities of the Canaanites. And they moved in as new residents of those cities, and they had iron gates, very strong foundations, as a fortress, as a battle fortress per se. And hence this phrase here, that your locks on your border towns are strong as iron and copper, as in the days of your old age, will be like the days of your youth. So in other words, no matter how old you become, you will have that fighting spirit within you. You will be able to stand your ground with full confidence, and that you'll have a backbone of iron, that you will stand against your foes and stand up for those people that are vulnerable. Verse 22, still in chapter 33, wrapping up the book of Devarim. On Dan, he said, Dan is a young lion streaming from Bashan. That is the verse for the fifth aliyah that I have selected from the Chumash. The sixth aliyah, Moshe continues the blessing and praising of the Israelites, literally saying hallelujah to the very tribe, to Dan, to Asher, to Shimon, to Joseph, to Yehuda, to Benjamin. Hallelujah, praise be the name of the Lord my God. The barokahs that came ultimately from God's throne from Mount Sinai, I give that fullness to you at this time, the last hours of my life. God will always dwell with the people of Israel. He will never leave them. He will always come to their assistance in a time of the greatest of a crisis, even when they don't expect it, they don't deserve it. Jehovah never turns his back on his people, but his people continue to turn their back on Jehovah. But Jehovah is not a man, he's not a son of a man, he does not have the human predisposition to sin and to lie and falter and weakness. He never sleeps, he never slumbers, right? Chapter 34, verse 5, and Moshe, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab by the mouth of the Lord. Mouth is literally an opening in the ground where Elohim had prepared specially for Moshe to his last resting place. And verse 6, and Elohim, blessed be his name, buried Moshe in the valley in the land of Moab, and opposite of Beth Peor. You heard Beth Peor mentioned in the time of Pinchas' battle with Balaam the false prophet. And no person knows this place is burial to this day. How is this possible? Don't you think Joshua looked when Moshe was going up to the Mount Nebo and going into Moab and going down in the valley and just disappearing over the horizon? Don't you think he was curious about that? No one followed him up there because Moshe instructed this is a private meeting with the divine creator for him to be buried. In quantum mechanics and physics, I'm sorry to get scientific right there, and I told someone like this at work. Did you know if I was standing here 1 minute either in the past or 1 minute in the future, I would suddenly vanish and you would not see me, because my existence in time and space will be off by 1 minute, either negative or positive. All Elohim would have to do is take Moshe's body and bury it in a place was outside of space-time. I don't know if that's significant to you, but I've always believed that, okay? The seventh aliyah, and we're wrapping up this Parshah, as per God's precise instructions, Moshe ascended to Mount Nebo. Some more detail here. And Joshua would finish up this. Once on top of the mountain, God showed him all the land of Israel one last time. And then Moshe drew his last breath. At the age of 120, and that's the age we all pray, a blessed age we reach, we wish that for even the people that are sick to recover. Mishabar for them, that they can continue to live out a very long, righteous reputation to pass on the next generation, right? Until the last moment, his eye never dimmed. He did not become blind like Isaac, okay? He did not have a a pain in his hip and limp like Yaakov, like we battled with the angel. He didn't have any of these health issues. He didn't have Parkinson's disease. He didn't have cancer. He didn't have a cardiac pulmonary problems either. He had a very youthful face. He had a very youthful countenance. He didn't have wrinkles like valleys into his face. He shone like the brightness of the sun after he departed from Mount Sinai. Don't forget that he had to wear a veil over his face to keep that light and that glory, the Shekinah glory, from just humbling and melting the people of Israel when they beheld him. The Israelites mourned for Moshe for 30 days. So you picture this. You have the divine creator. We have Asher Yehovah Elohechem, private funeral arrangement, private visitation, exclusively with the king of the universe, right? The king of the cosmos, right? Preparing a hole in the ground, a mouth in a hole, to receive the body of Moshe once Elohim peered over Moshe. I picture this to this day. It makes me a little bit sad. And he holds his servant, his great servant, his friend, his best friend, in his arm until he closes his eyes. And then he breathes out his neshama into him. And then his body collapses in the hole he prepared. And then he carefully, with his hand, covers it up. And no one to this day knows where exactly what is buried. But as one footnote before I close, this whole area of Moab, the whole area of Mount Nebo, the whole area of Beth Peor, this region area that no one knows exactly where Moshe was buried, the whole area is under Jordanian, Palestinian control, and we don't have access to that land. We gave that land away. What do you think about that today? We don't honor Mount Sinai, the only mountain in the universe that Elohim decided to take his great of all prophets, Moshe, to and receive the Ten Commandments, and bury him in a place right now that is overrun by infidels, by people that hate and want to kill the Jewish people in Israel today. So in closure, the Israelites mourned for 30 days, and that's their tradition today, for sitting Shiva for 1 week, and then the rest of that 30-day calendar, our mourning is finished, and we gradually go back into the world, gradually go back into the workplace, and resume our lives. But even 11 months by tradition after that, we're saying Kaddish every single Shabbat for our loved one until that soul attachment has completely left us, and we can just completely take a deep breath and relax and move on to life and know that that loved one is for as dear to us as passed away. And I have a yard site coming up for someone very dear to me very soon, and I mourn them and I think about them every year when we have these yard sites, and that's the purpose of that. Okay, this is where tradition comes from in the death of Moshe and how it was handled so righteously. The Torah concludes with a eulogy for Moshe, and essentially says by the handwriting of Joshua, the greatest prophet ever lived, and he performed incredible and awesome miracles before the eyes of all of Israel. Maybe all say, oh mine. Before the eyes of Israel means that his witness was pretty much above reproach, except for the single act of striking the rock for water instead of speaking to it in anger before the nation of Israel. You can say he sinned only once before the people. Other than that, he was a sinless person. I wish I could say that about my life, that I never made any mistakes except maybe one that I had to beat my chest for during Yom Kippur. Now, we're going to get ready for Bereshit, the next Parshah. But I'm going to read you the first verse that we know and love, chapter 1, verse 1 of the book of Genesis. In the beginning, and the beginning means Bereshit, God's creation of the heavens and the earth. And we may all say, oh mine. Isn't that a wonderful verse to close? I give you also the Haftarah. I'm going to read this because it's significant, because it continues the story of Israel after Moshe passed away and after Joshua led the children of Israel across the river Jordan to conquer the Canaanites. Chapter 1, verse 8, the book of the Torah should not leave your mouth. That was his exhortation to the Jewish people. You shall meditate it therein day and night, in order that you observe to do all that was written in it. For then you will succeed. There's Boolean logic here, folks. If you follow and learn everything that's written in the 5 books of Torah, you will succeed in all your ways. If you do your best, humanly best, to keep the 613 mitzvot, 213 more or less you cannot keep if you live in the United States. You can only keep those in Israel, in theory. By keeping those mitzvot, you're essentially telling the divine creator, blessed be his name, that you love him, and that you care about his witness as manifested through your life. You will prosper in all your ways, in all your decision making, because when you make every decision, you're abiding by the 613 mitzvot, the only original halakha in existence, not the halakkas of the rabbinates, not all the stories and tales and legends of all these things passed on the Talmud and the oral tradition, but the only halakha that I respect and adore and honor and have enshrined in my house and placards in the 613 mitzvot and broken out in those categories by Ramban. Excuse me. That's what I keep. That's what I find delicious as honey in my mouth. Well, Reb Yair ben-Emmett signing out. I hope you enjoyed this Parshah. I hope you have a wonderful climatic end to Sukkot. Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah is a very joyful time where we end that season, right? It really is. No matter where you are at in the world, no matter what denomination you may call yourself, if you're ultra-Orthodox, if you're Orthodox, if you're modern Orthodox, if you're open Orthodox, if you're Hasidim, if you're something in between, if you're conservative, if you're conservadox, Reform, Reconstruction, you see where I'm going. Or if you're not have any denominational breakout, but you still are a proud Jew. I hope you enjoy this holiday. I hope it's meaningful to you. I tell my wife I'm binary because I'm used to following orders as a veteran of the United States Air Force. All of it's true, all of it's bunk and fairy tales. Everything in the 5 books of Torah, and everything that's espoused in the prophets of Navim, as you read that, and Judges and Kings, all the sacred writings of Tehillim, it's absolutely pure and absolutely honest. For our God is true, and that's a blessing. Rabbi Yair ben-Emmett signing out. Please share the knowledge and wealth and love and truth for everyone who's been willing to hear it. I'm a lighthouse on the hill. I'm not politically correct. I shoot from the hip. I'm black and white in my truth. I'm very binary. I am never non-binary. And I owe my love and blessing to my brothers and sisters of Cardism, no matter where you call home. All my love and blessing to B'nai Noach, wherever you may be. Thank you so much for your sweet and beautiful love for the Jewish people and worshiping the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, right? I'll see you real soon. Shalom Aleichem, and take care of yourself. Goodbye.